Hi guys, this is IT East and today we are starting our next series of interviews of JavaScript. Today our topics are first of all today our topic will be JavaScript interview series part 1, that is we are working on the basics right now. In the basics we will learn only what is JavaScript and about all the available data types, and between the data types there is a difference that some of them are primitive and some of them are non-primitive. So guys, for explaining this, I will create a new JavaScript file which I will run for you guys in order to make you understand how JavaScript actually runs and how can we differentiate between different types. So now we will open our VS Code first of all, and I am going to create a folder for that. That way I will upload at the end of this lecture onto the GitHub so that you guys can have a reference. So I will open a folder in my system where I will create a simple file for explaining you the different types of JavaScript, data types of JavaScript. So the folder is open, and now you can go to your any particular folder and create a HIS data types folder. Okay. And now I can open it like this. So I will just open this folder directly here, and I will just create an index.js file in order to run my JavaScript code. And I just have to open my terminal and I can just show you how this will work. I will just add log here 5 beast, okay, and I'm just gonna run it like node and index.js. It will obviously, so first of all I have to save and run. Now it will give me the output what I have logged actually. So now guys, we are just starting our lecture. So first of all I will write them down in kind of order that are present. In total we only have 7 data types in JavaScript. First of all we have number, then we have string, okay, and after number we have string, and then we have boolean, okay, and after that we have undefined. It is quite clear that undefined is also a data type in JavaScript, and then we have null data type, and then we have object data type, and at the end we have symbol data type. Okay, so these are some of the main data types that we will go through in this lecture. Now first of all, if I give you an example of number data type, I can create a constant here with a name number, and I can assign it to any number like 10 for example. And if I log the type of is actually JavaScript function that gives you a type of a particular variable, and now if I save it, it will give you the type of that number, which is actually a number, right? So the type of that variable is number, and we have already named it as a number, so don't confuse these two things in between. And similarly, if I create another constant with a name boolean for an example, and I will assign true to that boolean, and if I log it like type of that particular bool variable, okay, now if I do it, it will give me a boolean. So these are the two basic data types that we did. Similarly, if we use a string here is a string for example, and I change it to a str named variable. So if I log it again, the type of that variable would be string like this. Similarly, if you go to a variable const and you are defining it as an undefined, you don't need to add it in a string, it's a complete data type, so it will be assigned directly to that variable. And similarly, if I copy and paste it and edit UND at the end, it will give me undefined like this, okay. And at the end what we will see that the null variable, if it is a null, okay, and you double it var. I'm just adding var so that you don't confuse the name with the value. Okay, so it is actually object. Now the question arises, why this null is an object? In JavaScript, it has been designed in a way that this null indicates that the variable is going to be an empty object, so it defines as an object. For example, if it is a null, it means that it is an empty object. So its type of would be an object type, but the value of that object is null. So I can give you a reference for that, and you can read out for your further interview questions. And after that null, we have a complete object. So if we create an object here, right, and this is how you create an object in JavaScript, and you log it like this. And if you write here type of obj and run this code again, I will object will be there. So you got my point. Like, this is the empty version of a primitive data type, which is object. So we will discuss obviously primitive and non-primitive, and then this will be more clear to you. And after that, there is a symbol data type that is not openly used, but the thing is, we can do, you can create a symbol using symbol, and you can write any, you know, a value in it, and this would be like test, right? And if I assigned it to a sim variable and log the type of that sim variable and check it like this, it will give me a symbol. Symbols are mostly used for the purpose that you don't ever change the value of it, then you will use a symbol. It is kind of a symbol for anything, and if the data cannot be changed for any time, you can use that symbol variable. For further, you can obviously go to we can discuss it in our advanced lectures, but for now, just remember it for the types. Now moving on to our next topic, which is primitive and non-primitive types. First of all, we need to know that before going to that, we see there is no array here, but you can create array in JavaScript. So you can add an array like this is equal to array 1 2 3, and if you log it and the type of it actually of array, it will give you object again. This is because everything in JS is object. Now at behind the scene, when you create an array, at the end JavaScript translates into an object and further process on it, but in front of you it's just an array. So that is the reason. Now if we move on to our next topic, which is primitive and non-primitive data types, I will just copy and paste from above, and then we can discuss on it. Primitive and non-primitive data types. Now the types that are number, string, boolean, undefined, those all are primitive, right? So I will just write them down here below. And further, number, string, boolean, undefined, and we can add null here, and symbol, right? And the other means only remaining is object is a non-primitive data type. So the main difference between primitive and non-primitive data types are, like, first of all, the primitive data types refer to those types that have only one value and they don't have a reference in the memory. They just assign the value to a variable without assigning a reference. So how we can differentiate between referred and non-referred are, for example, if we create a constant with number, for example age is just a number, right? Now if I create another constant named age 2, right, and it would be equal to age, now here it will create a copy of that, right, and it will not give the reference. How we can prove it? If I change it to let, right, and if I change the age 2 is equal to 12, here if I log it or log this value, the age value, right, and the age 2 value, and I can give you a proper view of it like this. If I add an interpolation of that string and add age is, and similarly I can add those signs here and put it inside an interpolation, and age 2 is, right, and you can add a colon after that. Now if I save it and run, I am using now node 1 because I don't want to run it again and again. So here it is, age is 10 and age is 12. So here there was a copy, right, and this age is not changed, so even the age 2 is changed. Why? Because the reference of it is not assigned to. If the reference was there, that age would have been changed. Now this is a non-refer type value. For example, if you have, now this is a primitive type. Now primitive type is a non-refer. Now if I go to non-primitive type value, which is only object, I can create an object named user which has certain properties in it. The first property of user is name, right, and it is, for instance, beast. Similarly it has age which is 10. Now if I save it like this, now I create another variable and its name is user2 and I assign it to user, right. Now if I change user2 dot age equal to 12, right, and if I log these variables one by one, first one is the user and the second one is the user2, right, and I put a comma in them. I am not adding any string because we can just differentiate between these brackets. So beast 12 and beast 12, according to the previous logic, the first variable should have 10 and the second one should have 12, but now as you can see, I have only changed one variable, that is user2, and it has changed all of the reference behind it from where it is coming. So that's how you can differentiate between primitives and non-primitives. Similarly, we can define them as immutables because they cannot be changed, they can only be copied, and these can be changed through reference, so they are mutable data types. So that's how you can differentiate with a single example. So that's how you can differentiate with a single example between these two types, and you can easily explain it in your interview.